What is happening, everybody? How is it going? Thanks again for joining me for another BG-Cast Wednesday Live podcast. Man, we're going to have a lot to talk about tonight. There is some very strange things going on. I'm going to save most of that till I bring my guest Corey on. But real quick, you guys saw the disclaimer. Let's key it in for the audio version. Disclaimer: the subject matter and the topics that we will be discussing in this episode are for entertainment purposes only. So with that being said, guys, I want to welcome a couple new followers real quick over to BG-Cast. Like I said last week, I really appreciate all the love I've been getting from everybody. It's been awesome. I've been working hard over these past 2 years. We're coming up to season 3. We got almost 3 years of BG-Cast going on, guys. So like this is cool. And I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So we got Radical Speak, welcome over to the BG-Cast fam. We got James Carner. Thanks, man, for stopping by and checking it out. I got AMAC88. Thanks, man. I really appreciate the follow. I got TX Rick 409. Dude, thanks so much. I got Eric Wilson live. Thanks, man. I really appreciate the follow. I got Ape Chun 559. I got Caleb Huizar. I think that is correct. If it is not, my bad, man. 22. Thanks for following me. And then BritDog76. Thanks, guys, for coming over to the BG-Cast fam. And, of course, everybody on YouTube, thank you for their subscribing and checking me out. Nonetheless, guys, I got a really cool guest tonight. I've been looking forward to sitting down for a while. I actually met my guest, Corey, back a year ago. At a We Are Change event, man. We kind of hit it off. I found out he had a podcast too. And, we chatted a little bit, kind of reconnected a little bit more as of recently. And we're doing the show together. We're finally hitting the mics, man. And he's got his own podcast called Break the Chains Media. And if you guys want to give him, go scope him out. I have the links in the description for both the Rumble and the YouTube video. But nonetheless, let's welcome Corey to the stage, everybody. What's happening, man? How's it going?
How you doing, my man? Appreciate you having me here.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's about time. We've talked about this for a while. You've been kind of off on your journey for a little bit, and I think that's really cool, man. You were talking with me a little bit about it at the beginning of the show, but real fast, because it's your first time here, and whenever we have someone on for the first time, we like to hear their story, man. We like to hear, how they got to where they are today. I know that you're in the freedom movement and, the liberty movement and all that. I mean, I've seen you at the events and, what kind of was this, the best thing I could say was the burning bush moment for you that kind of like opened your eyes to a lot of this. And, how did it lead you to where you are today?
Sure, man. Yeah. Thanks. I started back, like middle school, let's say, like I was in 7th, 8th grade, 9/11 was kind of like my whole renaissance of thoughts and ideas and understanding. And, back then I was like, I couldn't even really figure out where the quote unquote Middle East was with George Bush and everything happening there, and the towers falling with seconds within their own footprint, and the third, building 7 deciding to collapse without just office fires, right? So those are the things that kind of like opened my eyes and kind of like made me think questions more than the narrative was being given by the mainstream media. The perfectly found passport on the sidewalk, and rubble turning into liquid metal, all of these things. And anyone in the mid 30s and maybe older can kind of relate with me to that to some degree if we're in that kind of like questioning and like understanding movement. Therein lied the me following the rabbit hole, quote unquote, going down that, and understanding that perpetual war and spreading quote unquote democracy with the American military industrial complex, and the opium fields out in Afghanistan and Iraq. These kind of things made me kind of like question the whole narrative of like, what are we doing? And then I found We Are Change. We Are Change Colorado is a great avenue for me to just really just dive into this other world of corruption and darkness and, New World Order, Agenda 2030, or at the time it was Agenda 2021, then renamed it to Agenda 2030, and whole global governmental body, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, all these different aspects, and then realizing that there was a whole bigger game at play. So that's kind of where I was at, and I've protested Obama, I've protested the Bushes, I've protested, street movements, peaceful protests.
Oh yeah.
But I remember one of the funniest things that I did with We Are Change back in the day. We all Al Gore had a book signing for the Inconvenient Truth book at the Tattered Cover downtown, and we all got in line. We all wore our clean, 3-piece suits, business casual. We all bought the book and scattered ourselves amongst the crowd. And one by one, we went into the book signing, and we walked up to Al Gore one by one. He signed the book, and then we all shouted at him, "You're a liar! Climate change is a lie. This is all a push for global governments and carbon tax credits and all these things." And we all got kicked out one by one. One of my buddies literally ripped up the book in front of him. Johnny Hurley, legend, ripped the book up in front of him. But we've been doing it for a long time. But now I'm here trying to post all the information, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on Twitter, or excuse me, X. You don't want a dead name. No more dead names. But on X, Break the Chains M, or Break the Chains Media on Rumble. I live stream on Rumble. So I just, do all kinds of things. And that's kind of what I do now.
I love that, man. I love that story. And let me tell you what, yes, John is a legend for sure.
Yeah.
And what he did, man, most certainly. And but no, I'm with you. That was one of the biggest things for me too, at the beginning when I, first started thinking about things and looking outside of the box, man, was 9/11. And you know what's funny? I was actually having a conversation with somebody about that today. And somebody was against the 9/11 conspiracy theory. And, here's the thing, like, despite my beliefs, I work in infrastructure. I'm an electrician. I've built high rises, and, high rises, we use the same U.S. standard cage model system that the trade centers were built off of. It's still a U.S. standard today. And there's no way a plane fucking took down. There's no way just a plane took down.
Those are the only two buildings in history to collapse due to internal structure office fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if the plane and the weight of the planes hit those buildings and quote unquote hit the core of the central structure, I mean, the physics behind it, architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth gave me a lot of information back in the day, but it's just like it's science. I mean, if you want to live in the realm of science, as people 4 years ago wanted to perpetuate the realm of science, if we want to play the game of science, like, that does not hold up to physics, let alone Building 7, let alone the Pentagon, so that, and therein lies the awakening. 20 plus years ago is what happened, right? Now we're living post-COVID, we're living post election process, and there's so many things currently that we, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose right now, my man,
That's a good way to put it, dude. It really is. Dude, I'm sure you can attest, because you've been in this just as long as I have. It's been a weird evolution. We had our own ideas of for a long time of how this would all eventually come to be. But man, it's been a surprise even for me, and that's where I've kind of like, and at least in that point, I'm sure you feel the same way, is like, you kind of release that expectation, and you just kind of observe. That's all you can, really do at this point in time, man, especially, with a lot of the weirdness that's coming around right now after this election. And I was talking with you about this before we started the show. And in case any of the listeners or viewers aren't aware of this, the left is, now you guys know my stance on the bipartisan system. So before I get into this, don't give me shit for giving the left shit or giving the right shit. I give both of them an equal amount of shit. And you guys who know me know that I do that.
It's a big toilet.
It is. It really is, man. It's a huge toilet, and that's how. And there's just a lot of turds floating in it. And what are
Yep.
you going to do at
Yep.
that point? It's like but it's the left now because they're so against Donald Trump and all of his ideas and all of what he wants. That they want to self fluoridate their water. They want to fluoridate their own water because they again, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I am just a little bit. But it's like, wow, we're on that level now, I guess. But they want to fluoridate their own water because they don't trust why Donald Trump wants to remove it. So, Corey, let me let me hear your thoughts on this matter. I've got to because I think a lot of us are feeling very similar about the situation. We're all kind of getting an internal gag kind of kick out of it at the same time.
It's quite hilarious to watch them defend things that are so blatantly true, like in the realm. I mean, like, I'm not sure how versed your followers and your group is, but fluoridation started with 1940s Nazi Germany. I mean, like, this fluoridating of water to lower the IQ levels and to calcify the pineal gland. I mean, like, this is, I mean, it's all, and not only that, it's isn't it an industrial, like, waste product, like
Absolutely, yes.
so, like, and then to try to validate through the systems in which our country has established, it's good for our teeth, it's good for the teeth, even though like, even we could avoid fluoride in our toothpaste. 90% of the fluoride that we consume comes from the tap water and the showers that we take. Our skin is the largest organ in our body, and we bathe ourselves in fluoride every time we shower. I feel, even though I'm quote unquote clean, I feel dirty after a shower. But it's funny because these people will defend to the end of their days the system in which that's been established around them. And one of the things, I do sticker campaigns and I make stickers, but one of the stickers I have on my website is do not rely on the system that continues to control you, right? And therein lies the whole paradigm and structure that these leftists, and I decipher between leftists and liberals, because these leftists they're cult members, no different than the right. Like, there's varying degrees of cultic mindset, but they believe that fluoride is good for you. And it's just it's shocking to me, just because someone comes into the system that tries to shake their foundation, they have to defend it to their nth degree, without taking 5 minutes of research and just saying, oh, actually, it kind of has a really terrible history.
Oh, dude, they'll die on that hill, man. No, 100%
will.
agreed. And something, I mean, this is slightly on topic, but like, another thing a lot of people don't talk about, I mean, when it comes to fluoridation, is the Teflon, and that's a whole other fucking, that's a whole other can of worms in and of itself. But no, dude, it is a very, and I agree with you on the left and the liberals thing, because to me, a liberal means somebody who wants liberal freedoms, and that's a true liberal. We look at people on the left; these people don't want liberal freedoms. They don't want that. It's almost just, and I agree with you on the right too. It's become it's like a hypnotic cult at this point. It seems like there's a vast majority of our population. Maybe back in 2016, I could have said cognitive dissonance, like, back in 2016, when Trump first got elected and all that. But now, man, it's just gotten so weird. I think we're above that, at least in my opinion, at this point. It's almost like a form of hypnosis that's causing like this. Yeah.
One of their slogans is "Vote blue no matter who." And if that isn't cultic behavior, if that isn't just towing the line because of the thing that you've been taught, then I don't know what is, right? And it's wild to me that, like, it just, like, and you can see that in this election. I mean, we had the Democratic Party, without democratic process, install a candidate, and they went overnight, shifted from Biden is the hero, Biden's going to take out Trump within 24 hours, Kamala Brat Girl Summer slay, and she's like, Queen Slay and TikTok trends and all this other shit. And I'm just like, what just happened? And it goes back, vote blue no matter who. They don't look at policies. They don't look at real functioning government and economy and balance of logical ideas and the debate on these differentiating ideas, right? They don't do it. They just toe the line.
Dude, I completely agree. It's almost as if, like you were saying, it's what I see really is coming out is like the dark side of human nature and human psychology at this point. We see this we have these topics that are put on pedestals in our society, these very divisive topics that ultimately attack what I would call the core emotional centers of the human collective. We're dealing with very passionate topics here, and these are constantly put on display. And this is all that's ever advertised. We're hardly talking about unification. We're hardly talking about learning to work with one another or anything like that. And then what happens is you push people into this highly emotional state where there is no more logical thinking. And now we're seeing what I would potentially call the effects of this now starting to take hold in the population. And we were talking about this a little bit before the show. I mean, do you feel that a lot of this is purposeful? Because I feel that it is to an extent, and I do believe though there are organic examples of this. Like I was saying, of course we have human nature and human psychology coming into play, but it seems like this is just what's meant to be force fed into the minds of the general population to keep them in such a state of dysfunction.
Yep. I can agree with that 100%. You do have the natural desire for humans to want the best for themselves within their own realm of reality, right? And whether that's the far left or the far right or center, whatever. However, when you have a mainstream media, when you have outlets that literally give you, spoon feed you what to think, what to believe, how to think, and then on top of that, mix in your disinformation and misinformation and stay away from those, and unless it's a accredited source with a verified background, like don't go to the podcast, or don't go to the Rogans of the world, don't go to the Tim Pools or the or even the Sam Cedars or the anyone that has not certified mind views, right? And we see a pendulum shift, right? We see a pendulum swing. You get to some level of quite literally like insanity, like we're talking hormone therapy for minors and gender study, all these things. But on the other side, you have people thinking of young Earth and people riding dinosaurs 10,000 years ago. So there's extremes on different ends of this spectrum, and I'm not discrediting any of this, but it's like this then becomes up to the individual, up to the self, and therein lies my creed would be like, we at the end of the day are our own discerning body of government, right? Like we have to digest the extremes of all information and discern wherein this realm makes the most sense, and then I have to make that decision based on all information available, right? I spent many years in my earlier days looking into flat earth, and for all of your followers, like there might be a lot of them who are, and there might be a lot of them who aren't. I firmly believe that we live on a spherical earth. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't aspects of the truth within the greater lie that is, my opinion, the flat earth theory, right? So we have to digest all of these things and come to a conclusion and say, all right, where do I stand in this, right? And that's kind of where we're at right now, is people don't do that anymore. People just take things for what they are and they follow this cult-like mentality, and then they follow their leaders, they follow their false prophets, whatever, however you want to label it as, and then we end up getting further and further divided from what is the truth or what is objective reality.
No, of course, dude, and I think you summed it up pretty well. That was kind of, we're going to touch a little later on about something you said about the flat Earth. I think, I have half and half on my listeners. There are some who believe it is, and then there are some who believe it isn't. And what's funny about that too is, like, we can't even have civil discourse over that topic, but nonetheless, nonetheless, man. So one of the things, I wanted to ask you real quick, but first I have a comment from a viewer. We have Andrew from Heavyweights Light Feels saying, "Preach, my brothers." Thanks for being here, Andrew. Appreciate it, man. But so we were chatting a little bit before the show about your opinion on the outcome of the election. And, you said something very interesting. And, in a lot of ways, what I feel is we, whether or not I agree with the bipartisan system or not, what I do feel that we saw was the power of intention in Mass Effect. And we saw a very clear answer, it seems, for the world that the greater United States at this point in time wants to live in. So let's get your opinion about that, man, because it was very interesting what you had to say.
Great. Yeah, for sure. And to like full disclosure, I understand that there is a corrupt nature to our two-party system. There is a system in which governs and controls us with mass formation, psychosis, and identity politics, and these belief in this or that. However, I think currently we are seeing a shift from the old guard to the new guard, and for what it's worth, we have, I think, a dying of the neoconservative rhino establishment narrative of the GOP, and we see this complete just refusal and just turning away of these radical Marxist ideologies of the left. And there is a structure that I feel people just want the government to do right by the people. And I think Trump spoke to that. There's a lot of midwits in our country, and maybe myself included, because we get into these thought processes and understanding that, like, there's literally things happening in Colorado right now with the Tren de Aragua gang and mass immigration, these illegals. And I'm not trying to get into these political hot points, but like, this was more than just a refusal of the Democratic Party. And Trump spoke to a lot of people, and I'll be first to admit, I did vote for him. I voted for him this year. I voted for him in 2020, and for lack of 2020 was a very interesting election cycle. You had Biden getting 81 million votes, and then this election cycle, Kamala's down almost 7 million votes. From where do those Democratic voters go? We can make our own speculations as to where what happened there.
One can only imagine, right? Like,
yeah,
one can only imagine.
But we see if you and I get into a little bit more political direction with my information, my podcast and stuff I put out on my networks. But we saw a fundamental red shift in America. I mean, New Jersey was within 4 points of being flipped. California flipped almost half of its counties red, and there is a yearning for what Trump was speaking. And Trump might not, I personally don't believe he's the end all be all. I don't think he's a savior. I don't think he's the perfect man. He's I've been saying this to a lot of people I speak with. I bartend, so I talk to a lot of different people, a lot of different walks of life. But I say, if you're in a jungle and we got to navigate from one side to the other. Do we want a savage who's lived in that jungle, who understands the rules of the jungle, or do you want a paper pushing, desk clerk to to guide you through the jungle? I personally want the savage. And Trump might not be perfect. But he has the qualifications necessary to go into that system of, the octopus, the evil powers that be, the structured system that's been established, that's, tried to enact our global governance system without any rules or regulations based on the Constitution. And if Trump can at least stave off a open takeover of what I personally, in my opinion, believe would have been a communist takeover through Kamala. Kamala was blatantly a puppet, right? Like
absolutely.
For anyone who doesn't see that, like, she was installed and she had no platform outside of the cackling, laughing, and then price capping, which is extremely socialist in nature. But there was nothing there. It was a vacuum. There was an empty thing, and that at least Trump has these platforms, and there might be some. He's got some interesting picks for his cabinet. He's got some really good people. He's got some really not good people, and he has maybe some nefarious monetary interests that go in with how he got to his position. But there was a fundamental shift in this election, and maybe it was allowed to happen this way, or maybe the populist and maybe the energy of the people, this deep-rooted, overarching energy that is the energy of freedom, gave belief to that we might have at least, let's say, 2 more years until the midterm. Let's say, we might be able to get a little bit done in the corrupt system. Maybe let's clean up some of this government bloat with Elon Musk and Vivek, using the Department of Government Efficiency to cut some of the bloat away. I don't know, but all we can do is give them the opportunity. They understand that they have a mandate by the populist people to say, hey, we put you in here. Do what we want you to do. Secure our border, make the economy more affordable, bring jobs back to America, make the country safer to live in. And if they don't follow through with that, I think that there's going to be a lot of blowback when it comes to election time next time.
I would completely agree, man. I think right now, I agree with you about Kamala too. I joke and I called her the female Trudeau.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's quite literally what she is.
Oh yeah.
It's like if Castro decided to, I guess, I don't know if you heard that rumor that Fidel Castro is actually Trudeau's dad.
You see those pictures. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right?
I mean, dude, it's uncanny. We can't. It's neither here nor there. But no, it is, man. She had no platform. I mean, for the love of God, she had to pay people to endorse
celebrities, millions of dollars. Celebrities, millions of dollars, and not to mention, isn't it funny how every celebrity that backed her is also on a similar list with P. Diddy, right? Like it's very convenient. I posted a meme on my Instagram. You can see I got all kinds of funny stuff on my Instagram. I also made an AI image of I made a joke because everyone was talking like, oh, you're pronouncing Kamala's name wrong. That's not how you pronounce her name, Kamala. I would go, actually, it's pronounced Kamala Harris, because she instills communism, right? But I just make jokes, right? Yeah, it's on my Instagram. It's on my Instagram.
Kamala Harris. No, I mean, oh, dude, well, it was funny though when I will say this. It was funny when Trump called her out on being Indian, because she was portraying herself as an African American woman and all that, and he's like I just knew her when she was an Indian. I didn't know she was a black woman or whatever.
I never knew she was an African American. I've always known her as an Indian. She makes a great masala.
Man, dude, I'm telling you, man. But no, and I'm with you, man. I think what we saw was the greater population of America, like we were talking about, saying no to the woke agenda. and all of that. And it's a very interesting scenario to me. And we were kind of tossing this around a little bit before the show, but there's a lot of theories about Trump too, and what his purpose is in this, and that's something I like to take a look at. I've always tried to stay objective in this, and I try to the best that I can. Like, of course, I have my own opinions when it comes to things, but as far as like seeing this whole scenario out, I do try to just sit and observe. But we were talking about some interesting things about Trump before the show. We brought up how a lot of people think he's the Antichrist, or there's some kind of sleight of hand going on with him. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, because I can very much see that, and not only just taking it for face value, but in scripture they talk about the seven trumpets, right? The seven trumpets, and it's in the name, right? So you can take that for what it is. And he's a very egocentric man. He's very narcissistic in his own behaviors, right? There is a character within himself that I think that he wanted the triple crown, right? He was a man who was known for his celebrity appeal, the 12 seasons of his apprentice, the Apprentice show, and he was in WWF, like very well known, like world renowned name. Like he's got his name in gold on buildings across the world, right? Like very symbolic imagery of this man. And then you apply that to what else does he do outside of getting the president? He got the presidency in 2016, but then what else, right? And now he's the only president, second to I think it was Cleveland, or is it Garfield? Garfield or Cleveland? I can't remember who got the second terms. There was one other president who got non-consecutive terms as a president. He's the second one to do that. I think it was Garfield.
I think so too. I can look real quick.
Yeah. Check it up. But I mean, he's writing his name in the history books as this iconic figure, and he has this wave of populism that's surrounding him. And there's a lot of Christian people who I think to some degrees might see him as a ideological prophet, right? Like they are putting him on this pedestal of he's going to save us from the evil that is the new world order and the agenda and the mark of the beast. But you also just take a step back and you look at who invested in Trump and who backed Trump. You've got Peter Thiel. You've got several different people who have injected dark money into his campaign. A lot of technocrats. I mean, Elon Musk, for all of his accomplishments, he's still part of Neuralink. He has a surveillance satellite. Or I wouldn't say surveillance satellite, but it very well could be applied to be a surveillance satellite, Starlink, that encompasses our planet. It gives us all these benefits of internet and all of this connectivity to the world that we live in today. However, I guarantee you, it just takes some coding to restructure that to turn it into a Skynet, right? Or these other degrees, and then with the advancements of AI, with the advancements of technology and Boston Dynamics and these robots. I'm watching videos of robots. It's very close to what we could assume being a Trojan horse into a technocratic system. And I just recently today read an article how he's bringing people in that I want to say it was some country in Africa. I can't think of the name, and I'm really screwing up the resource material here. But there was a guy who is now working with the Trump administration who enacted cryptocurrencies or blockchain technology, and now they're trying to apply that to aspects of our government and using that as a basis to run certain aspects of our government. And then meanwhile, you have Trump speaking on the other end of like no central bank digital currency. Okay, well, maybe there won't be a central bank digital currency, but if certain aspects of our government are linked with our social security number, with our state identification process, it might not be a transaction process with CBDCs, but there might be some systematic link to government surveillance state with a blockchain technology that could usher in some sort of stuff. I mean, like, it's 2024. Agenda 2030 is 6 years away. So they might not have wanted to go for an overt takeover with a Marxist, socialist takeover in a very overt way. Maybe they're trying to do it in a subversive way, or using the wave of populism to usher in different aspects of the long game. And I don't know.
Dude, no, that makes a world of sense. I mean, because this is one thing I've noticed, at least in my, of like I was talking with you about before the show, these like almost 17 years of observation looking at this. It's been a very slow decommissioning. And that's something, a lot of the community still hasn't really come to grips with yet. I've been, like I said, I've been in this for a little bit, so I've seen all of the hype. I've seen all of the, there was supposed to be like a few financial collapses that were supposed to happen already. I remember World War III was supposedly supposed to break out in 2016. And even getting into the woo side of things, Planet X was supposed to be here like twice now.
The Mayan calendar in 2012. I mean, to be fair though, I think the Mayan calendar did have a fundamental shift in our psyche and in our consciousness, and we did a huge shift in the long count calendar of the Mayan calendar and the Kali Yuga, if you want to go to the Indian belief of things. But like, there is a fundamental energetic shift that's happening now in the realm of consciousness and awakening, and entering the age of Aquarius, all these things, right? And you have to be perceptive enough to understand and to see these calculated movements within our very rigid physical society, and apply that to a esoteric or spiritual aspect dynamic of like, what is this fundamental shift? I mean, what are the odds of a man shifting his head 3 degrees to avoid an assassination bullet?
It's I think you have a better chance of getting struck by the lightning twice in the same.
It's crazy. And then that same man won the election, in not just a close election, but a decisive win. And and therein lies the people that they do put him on a pedestal, they do idolize him because of certain aspects, and maybe that as well. But it's can we say simulation theory? Can we say there's a little bit larger calculations at play? Maybe we're not saying, maybe we all say 5D chess when it should be 5D as in like 5th dimensional reality. Like, no one's playing 5D chess. There's people playing the 5th dimensional reality that we cannot perceive because we're in the 3rd dimension, right? That's we're just trying to give words or reason to what's really going on. We can't perceive these things, right?
Oh, absolutely, man. And I joke. So one thing you'll like. So I have an analogy for December 21st, 2012. It wasn't the end of the world, but it was a downloading of an expansion pack onto our reality. That's the analogy I use for that. And whatever the expansion pack was called, Human Awakening Test Run or Human Ascension Test Run. I don't know what that would be, but no, because I completely agree with you on that. There was a very profound fundamental shift in consciousness. I remember it, and it was almost like it was almost 20. I always say that, if we look at the world pre-2012, a lot of this was still going on, but it was very subtle. Like, you had to really know what
it was very small game. We had Obama and the drone strikes, and it wasn't as in your face and political and I liken it to the news cycle, right? Like I felt like the news cycle back then, you could kind of keep up. It was every 1 day or 2 day cycle of like big things happening. But like now we're sitting in a news cycle where like three crazy things could happen in one 24-hour period. And we're just trying to keep up, and it's crazy to me. And like, for what it's worth, I mean, you also have the thought of splitting timelines, or like doing a little fundamental shift in 2012 with, I don't know if you want to think about the Large Hadron Collider and whatever happened kicked off back then, Mandela effect stuff. But I mean, like, we could be in some alternate kickback to what could have been or what should have been. I don't know, but like I've always postulated that idea too.
So the one thing I tell a lot of people, because I mean, it very well could have been the Hadron Collider. I would never outrule that, because, and this is something I don't think a lot of the common people understand. And because I'm an electrician, I'll break it down. It's like, so you have that thing, you have the Hadron Collider running off 4 quadrillion volts. That is enough power to power the entire continent of Asia. And if you compress that, and it was 17 miles the circle, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and they want to build they want to build another one. Did you know that?
No, I did not. I did not know that.
So they currently have, I think there's 2 collider systems. There's one that's smaller, and then there's a secondary one, and then the LHC is like the largest one currently working. And then they want to build another one that goes like clear up to like Norway. It's insane how big they want to build this next one. And like, but they're using this like, oh, we just one, like, I don't know. There's the meme. It's like, we just need one more hadron, just one more hadron, and we'll be able to find the particle. Just one more, and we'll be able to know the existence of humanity and know the existence of reality. Just one more. But it's like, I don't know, dude. Like you just said it yourself. The amount of energy needed to run that is insane.
Dude, and compress that. Yeah, if you compress that into a 17-mile circle, that kind of energy, you best believe weird shit's gonna happen.
Weird shit.
Weird shit. Yes, dude. And that's one thing I don't think I mean, I've walked into electrical rooms, man, with like 10,000, 15,000.
You can feel it on your body. Yeah.
You feel it in your joints. It's really hard to explain. I can't, unless you're in one of those rooms, I can't really describe to you the feeling, but like your joints even kind of start to hurt a little bit when you're around that kind of energy. But like, and that's something it very well could have been what happened. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people, there's a lot of theories that also run around. We'll dive into this for a sec because we're on the topic, but that think the world truly ended in 2012, and what we're in is a different timeline altogether.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at a lot of the things from, I mean, one guy picked out the Albert Pike 3 World Wars letter, and he predicted the first 2 world wars with stunning accuracy in 1888, or was it 1889, whenever he wrote the letter, which was many years before any of them happened. But as far as the Third World War is going, he's been very off. So like that's kind of a lot of people are putting that together. But I just think, man, we don't honestly know. We can speculate on it, but one thing we can agree on for sure is there's a relatively strange vibe to it all. Most certainly, man. And what that strange vibe is, it could be a lot of things, but I think really what we just need to do right now is kind of sit back and observe, and that's really the best thing that we can do.
Yeah. And did you, I don't know, on that note with the Hadron, did you see the opening ceremony for the Large Hadron Collider with Shiva, the goddess?
The Shiva statue? Yep.
Shiva statue, and all the dancing and all this weird occult. I mean, it's very reminiscent of like a Super Bowl halftime show or a Madonna concert, like Gaga, all these, like there's so much symbolism and there's so much overt in our face, but it's this is the occult practice and the occult behavior of subversively giving your permission through occultic practices, right? And they're not asking, they're showing, and they include the population with these ritualistic behaviors and these ritualistic beliefs, or what they believe. They put it in our face and they show it to us, and therefore that gives them, in their mind, permission to continue their agenda. And
Mhm.
but that being said, it's wild. And like, with the hadron and the energy, and there is physical aspects of this universe. And Nikolai Tesla was a brilliant man, and I firmly believe that there is truth to his technology and possibilities. We could have had a free energy, you know.
Mhm.
uh, our government is based on the petrodollar, based on global economies, infrastructure, all these things. We would have had a substantially different world if they had honest people back in the turn of the century, 1800s, 1900s, and they just let rate, frequency transmission energy and free energy, like. But our world's built on greed. Our society's built on greed and ego and power and control and consolidation of all these things, which inherently lied to the creation of the Federal Reserve, which creation to
Mhm.
the League of Nations, and then the United Nations, and using fear as a means to control the population. And now we are fast forward 70 years since World War II. We're in a system where the people think what's best. These people in power that we elect get put in this system, and then they're gonna do the best thing for us, and no matter what. Well, sorry to break it to you, but there are ties, and there are people shaking hands and rubbing shoulders behind closed doors on both sides all day long for decades. And comes back to this election, comes back to where we are now. It's like there is a means to an end. And if what happened in this past election and Trump getting in office, if even if that staves off a totalitarian 1984 surveillance state, Brave New World kind of world, if it gives me 4 more years where I can, stack up some extra ammunition, buy a piece of land, and build my off-grid utopia, if that gives me 4 more years to do that, sign me the fuck up.
Dude, so you're gonna love this. So me and a friend of mine, we came up with the joke that we're an apocalypse when. And that's what we call we're an
Oh, that's
apocalypse
so that's
when.
so good. That's so good, dude.
And so like my thing was this, like, if Kamala did get elected, we were going to move into apocalypse maybe. And but I'm okay with another 4 years of apocalypse when too, at
Sure.
least in that aspect, because you're right, it gives us time to lay more groundwork, it gives us more time to strengthen the foundation of what we're trying to achieve. And it gives us like you said, save the money, buy the land to get things all in order. I mean, that's what a lot of people should be doing right now. Is a lot of us have moved towards that self-sustainability route, and now is the time we can thrive in this environment with that. I completely agree with that, man. So one thing I want to talk about to you, because I thought it was really important, that we also touched on before the show, was solutions. And we were talking about getting involved at a local level, with different local governments and things like that, and trying to. One of the things you said that I thought was really cool is you got to play their game to get the keys to their castle.
Yep.
And I think that's something that, a lot of I love you guys, please don't take this personally. A lot of the anarchist and libertarian community, still kind of fumbles on about a little bit, but I think you kind of laid it out in a good way. And so we had somebody who just agreed with that. Mrs. Sneath decided to say yep on
Yep.
that. And so I mean, I thought that was really cool that you brought that up, and we chatted about the American Capitalist Party a little bit. So let's get your opinion on a solution.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
What should we be attempting to do right now with this time that we have? Because I think a lot of us, and again, anarchists and libertarians, I love you, but there's so much fucking infighting that's going on in these communities at this point in time that nothing is getting done, nothing is getting accomplished. And the one thing that you brought up to me, I thought it was great, because this is a way of getting things accomplished. So let's dive into that a little bit. as far as the solution as to what we can do to help kind of push this change along.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. So I have been very much minimal government, minarchist, anarchist, libertarian. Like, you know, in a perfect world, like if we can absolve the federal government, chef's kiss, right? Um, and I'm gonna kind of like start with this analogy, right? And I told it to you earlier. I'm a gamer. I love games. I actually live stream. What I do on Rumble, if you want to follow me on Break the Chains Media on Rumble, I live stream my games, but I also talk politics and culture and current events, and I kind of like mix the two because like it's nice to have a little bit of downtime. It's nice to be able to like hang out, chill, but like kind of
Yeah.
stay up on what's going on. But I'm a gamer from heart, so 1997, right? I was hardcore into Zelda, you know, Ocarina of Time. And like one of the things in Zelda was you have to gather the small keys, gather the compass, gather the map before you could get the master key to open open up the door to the boss room to fight the boss. So you have to kind of like play within the confines of what's available to you to open up the door to fight the big baddie. And I see that very akin to what's happening in politics right now. And everyone wants to bitch and moan and sit on their ass and just say the system's fucked, the system's corrupt, everything's broken, they're all out to get you, blah, blah, blah. Not discrediting that. However, what are you going to do about it? Because you're going to sit there and complain, bitch and complain. And like, I have people like, I feel like I have a lot of friends who are in that ballpark who almost give me the same energy as a leftist arguing with me on their talking points because, you're an idiot because you just think it's going to be the same. Blah, blah, blah. Well, screw you. And like, good luck. Have fun being a slave to the system. I go, no, dude, like you don't get it. What you have to do is you have to be even more active. I go down to the Capitol. I go down to Denver Capitol and I protest government gun bans. I protest these bills that are object authoritarian against our rights in the Constitution because I feel like who else is going to do it? Because everyone just bitches and moans online. You have to change it from the inside. And
dude, I'll tell you. Yeah, no, dude, no, because you're getting into something I'm passionate about too, and that's been kind of my gripe and my frustration with a lot of the community at this point. Is the infighting. It's the best way I can describe it is I'm going to use a spiritual term for it. They're being byproducts of creation. They're not learning how to be a creator in creation.
Yes,
and
yes,
and I'm using that as the analogy because we all have the capability to be a player in this game. And and it just takes the want. It just takes the drive to do so. And I mean, even not just even on the political sphere, even in the, what I talk to a lot of my viewers and listeners about also, and on the spiritual side of things too, in your own life, when it comes to manifesting the life that you desire and things like that, you can be this player in this game. And it's a lot of, I joke, it's a lot of bitching and moaning. It's a lot of echo chambers. It's a lot of infighting. And, at this point, it's almost falling apart. We have a couple people who agree with you, man. We got Sneath saying you got to get in and change it from the inside. Totally with you. And she said, you're singing my song.
Absolutely.
And then
Let's go, baby.
Yeah, and then we got Skater Rubber Grip going. You can't unite anarchy.
Yes. Oh, can I touch on that because I fully agree with that.
Absolutely. No, I want to hear this because it needs to be said.
And okay, so like you said prior to our stream, it would be a perfect world to have 350 million anarchists, but you can't have anarchism in itself is self-governance, right? Like being in charge of yourself, having a moral code, having a moral compass, values based in truth and based in honesty and, respecting one another's all personal liberties, everything. Like we are innate creatures and we're all in this together. However, I mean, like one anarchist view might be completely skewed from where mine are. The values have to align in order to be able to cohabitate with one another, right? Otherwise, you're gonna get these isolationist territories of extreme, like, you know, for lack of better terms, like straight up cannibalism on one side, and the other one's like, you know, sharing goats and chicken, you know, all these other things, right? So I do feel like anarchists are so bullheaded in their nature, like, oh, screw everything, everyone's gonna, you know, everything's fucked anyways. Well, guess what? You can go be your little anarchist, like tribalism in your own corner, but one way or another, if you don't apply yourself to the system that's it's a steamroller. This overarching big government state will continue to push forward whether we're in it or not. And if we are not in the system, it moves faster, and eventually it's going to show up at your doorstep, and it's going to take you to whatever means to their own end, right? And all I can say is to be actively participating in your state and local government, to be the voice of reason, to be the voice that sounds off against whatever tyrannical overarching legislation they're trying to push through your state houses, your local houses. I mean, all you have to do is just start at the city level. It's very easy, and a lot of these positions in our government run unopposed. I mean, on the Colorado ballot, there was an unopposed, you know, attorney general. Like, it was just one Democratic. There was no write-in. It was just, she ran unopposed, and she gets the seat. And it's just like, why is that the case? I mean, like, anyone who has a reason and a general understanding of, I think, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, I mean, so, you know, liberty, preservation, you know, freedom, and being innate people and loving one another, run on those values and don't get bought and paid for. And then we can change this system. There's so many young people right now. I mean, like, you think about, we live in a gerontocracy. A majority of our politicians are over the age of 70, 60 and 70. They're all old. They're all old shit stains, right? Get them out, bring in a new guard of people. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening in the GOP. And, you know, for what it's worth, I mean, we've got a lot of young blood in the GOP who might have a new perspective on what it is. And there's so many people that are opposed to siding with a political party because we're so used to knowing the political system as the enemy. Well, change it so that we can actually use the tools that are established within the system to take the system back and make it part of the system in which we are trying to achieve. And I posted that in my I posted a video on all my platforms a week before the election, and I basically broke that down. And I had a weird vision. I had a weird, like, it was, I woke up in the middle of the night, couldn't fall back asleep, and I woke up and I made this video because I just had like this vivid vision a week before the election of just like a world where the worst case scenario happened. And I was just like, no, like, I want to be able to at least put my 2 cents out there into the world and speak my piece and say, hey, like, we got to be active in this. And like, if you don't like the way the world's going right now, like, we have the power to change it. And I think that people just got to get off their butt and do something a little bit more actively in their state houses and local races. And it starts there.
And dude, I agree with that too. And then, and you know, one of the biggest things, you know, is leading by example as well. And, you know, that's why I think, you know, you and I both have a show where, you know, we talk about these things. And, you know, there's a lot of other people we know who have put their foot forward.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, John Hurley did a lot too, from what I heard, and all of that. So, I mean, there's a lot of people who have taken the initiative and, you know, putting their foot forward. And that's really all it takes. You know, I mean, it's having that, it's getting off the bitching and the moaning stage, and, you know, and actually putting a foot forward. I mean, that's why I started this podcast. You know, I mean, I originally started this podcast in 2020 due to the coof and, you know, the stabby and everything that was going on, because it was at the point where I was like, no, something has to be done.
Well, and you speak the truth to power. And, you know, the words, the resonant frequencies of your voice and the tones in which you project. Like we as human beings, we are bioelectrical antennas sending and receiving signals. And we're sitting here, and the more we bitch and moan and send out these frequencies of we can't, we won't, it'll never happen, versus I can, I will, I'll achieve, you know, and independent battles and struggles in their life. Like I, this past year, and if you go to my channels, have not posted. I've kind of, outside of the last video I posted and a couple reels on Instagram, like I used to be very regular. I used to post 2 or 3 videos a week on YouTube and my Rumble, BitChute. However, I took a step back because I knew that I wasn't in the energy frequency that I wanted to achieve. That I wasn't vibing. I wasn't resonating where I was. So what did I do? I started eating right. I started getting into it. I followed circadian rhythms. I tried to, drink more water, the basic simple shit, right? I lost almost 80 pounds. I used to have 3 feet of dreadlocks. You can go look at my old videos.
I remember. Yeah.
I had 3 feet of dreadlocks. I had a big old beard. I was almost 300 pounds. And now I'm in a much better place. I'm in a much better state, mentally, physically.
Absolutely.
And you can attune your own frequency. You can attune your bioelectrical antenna, your chakras, your kundalini, however you want to label it. And you project that energy. You amplify your toroidal field into that positive energy, and you bring that in to a state house that might have a lot of occult symbolism and made of granite and made of cold, hard, rigid systems. Like you bring that in, maybe stand next to their obelisk and attune to their, you use that obelisk to amplify your frequency, right? Because I know
I love what you're saying.
there's an obelisk in front of the Colorado State Capitol, and you can do these things, and you sit there and you just say, I have the power. We are the power. Like, goes back to my whole mantra. We do not rely on a system that continues to control you, right? And let me show you. I can pull it up here. This is a sticker I have. It's 2024, not 1984. Time to start living in dangerous liberty than peaceful slavery. And you gotta
I love it, dude.
You gotta take that and run with that, right? And I'd rather die standing than live on my knees. It's that simple, right?
Absolutely, dude. And I think you just were speaking my language a lot, man. And it's and I've always kind of been on that level myself, because I've always been to say, if we're going to be in this game, I'm going to use all tools applicable to me to get through this and to do what I need to do. And I mean, you kind of spoke volumes. We have that power, we have that energy within us to catalyze that. It's one of the biggest things I think, a lot of our community is still stuck in, is the victim mentality. A lot, they won't admit it, and nobody wants to admit that they're stuck in the victim mentality when it comes to certain things, but that's what I really feel is going on. And, we have to kind of shift ourselves outside of that victim mentality, and we have to bring ourselves into a true state of power. It's yes, you've taken the personal philosophy of being an anarchist. That's a great thing. Now let's kind of put it into full motion. You have that power, you have that energy. Let's do something with it. At this point, you've already taken back your power from the system. You've become a player in this game now. And, that's something I feel that should be an empowering thing to a lot of people. And it's just taking the initiative, man. And like you were even saying, going into one of their occult buildings and using their obelisk against them. I mean, yes, absolutely. That's basically, that's the biggest middle finger in a lot of ways that you can give to them. It's just a fucking, exactly. It's like what they're using this for, and then you take it and you use it yourself. And
I'll tell you what, there's not a better feeling to sit in front of the chamber in your state house, your state capitol building, and to have 3 minutes given to you, right? Like, we all have free speech, but you get your obligatory 3 minutes to say whatever the fuck you want. and you sit there and you tell them, you bring your information, you bring your paperwork, and you speak your piece, and like, for what it's worth, you might win, you might lose, you go down swinging either way, right? And I'm about that kind of energy, right? You can't sit back and just say, well, guess they passed another bullshit law, guess they did this other dumb thing I hate. I'll go work another 50 hours this week and hope it changes next time. No, dude, like, sorry. Like, we all have aspirations and dreams. Like, I want 40 acres. I always make a joke. I say I want 40 acres, 40 chickens, and at least 40 guns. That's where I want to be, but I ain't there yet. So in the meantime, I got to be a part of it. I got to be about it. I got to sign up, show up, and make my voice heard. And you could see it actually in this past election. California, like half of the counties in California shifted red. New Jersey almost flipped. It was New Jersey's usually within like 12 to 15 points blue. It was within 4 points of flipping. And then, Colorado kind of disappointed. A lot of the people here in California, I don't know, specific to Coloradans, like the Tabor Act, all that legislation failed. So now the government gets all of our Tabor funds, all the additional taxes that they've collected over the years. Instead of us getting a refund, now it goes to infrastructure and roads and this, that, and the other. But it goes back to this. Why did people vote the fact that they would rather see the government spend our money than ourselves spend our money, right? But it's all based in wording. It's all based in, because initially all those ballot measures were like, without raising taxes, would you like to build infrastructure and roads and buy more books for children? Like, just such empty platitudes of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that's how government writes their shit, right? But therein lies the corrupt system, and so be it. Like, that's the problem. So start at whatever basic level you can and bring a change to the system that we see as a flawed system.
It's just as simple as that, is taking the foot forward. And it's about shifting a mentality too. There's definitely skater rubber grip. I hear you. I do. We're listening to perspectives. I understand where you're coming from. Some was saying some things in the comment section, but no, honestly, man, I think until we can move to a level where we are collectively, in a sense, morally and ethically able to handle that, this is a good option, most certainly. And I think what it's going to take is I mean, dude, even if people wanted to even potentially run as a different party, I mean, like I was talking to you about the American Capitalist Party and things like that. I know you are Skater Rubber Grip. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here for sure. Trust me, I do. And thank you. I appreciate that, Skater. But no, I mean, that's what it is. We're looking at different options right now. The American Capitalist Party being one. I'm sure there's other parties that are going to come into being too. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who are, fed up with the bipartisan system. And there's a lot of different ways we can go. And the thing, like you said, it's time for us people in our generation, because I don't know if you've heard about the fourth turning. Or have you ever heard of the book, The Fourth Turning, and the cycles and things
every 80 years, right? I mean, you can almost follow it to a T. Every 80 years back is something different happening, and here we are in the fourth turning.
No, it is, man. And so, when they were talking about the hero generation for this turning, it's us, the elder millennials and the millennials. We are the hero generation. When it comes to what we're supposed to be doing. So I think we need to start living up to our name, because, like people like you and I, and this is where I think us elder millennials have an advantage, is we saw the transition between worlds with technology.
Yes.
I mean, we remember the days when cell phones didn't exist. We had dial-up internet.
Games were no longer downloadable only, or like digital copies. Like, you had to go get your cartridge. You had to, or arcades, even like there was times where like you sat down and you played your game, and then you went outside and you lived life. Like, there was downtime, and then there was real life. but we've completely merged the two and melded the two. And now you have people that have apps on their phone that track their social media time so that they can make sure that they're not overindulging in their media. I mean, I had a friend that was like, I was using social media for like almost a full work week, 40 hours a week on social media. I was like, are you kidding me? Like you on top of a job, on top of like all like you're on your screen social media that much that it counted a 40-hour work week of you sitting on Instagram or, you know, YouTube or whatever the case. But to be fair, and I tell this to my son, I'm a single dad. I tell this to my son, uh, use it as a tool. You use technology as a tool. I gather a lot of information from a lot of independent media sources, you know, outlets. I gather and I bring my own consciousness to my own perspective, and then I say, where do I go with the information I've gathered? Like, how do I present myself into the world, into a place that I can make positive change? And I think that's what a lot of us need to start doing, is gathering that energy and making a positive change. Like like post COVID, I've built my whole backyard is a green, like a garden. Like I've raised garden beds, grow my own food, try to source my meats locally. I try to buy local. I'm trying to actively participate in things that resonate with that anarchist or minarchist mindset of don't keep living in that established system. However, you know, there's a give and take, because obviously I still pay my utilities. I still have to buy internet through, you know, Xfinity. Like I still do these things that I have to play their game, but I'm trying to popularize a new energy, a new dynamic paradigm shift, you know.
Oh, absolutely. So one thing you'll probably like this because you've liked a lot of my analogies so far, which is cool. So one thing I call it now. When I say this, I don't mean bare minimum participation in life. But what I call it is bare minimum participation in the matrix or the Maya system. And so what I mean by that is, I'm trying to figure out a better term for it as of right now. But what I mean by that is, yes, while you are here, I mean, there's certain things we have to make our temporary stay here comfortable. We have to go out and we have to provide for ourselves. We have to provide for our families. Things like that. So of course, there's certain aspects of this system that we are going to use, at least for the time being. And of course, what I mean too is, go out there and do something good in this world. Go out there and make a change. Go out there and leave something here that's going to help heal and teach this place. But that doesn't mean you need to fall in line. That doesn't mean, you need to, start partaking in the cult-like mentalities. That doesn't mean you need to, get your favorite Hollywood actor or, have your favorite sitcom or anything like that. So like it's, like you were saying, is you're making these changes towards the world that you want to see. And, we're trying to cultivate a new way of being. We're trying to cultivate a new way of life. And these are the first steps, is channeling your energy towards the world that you want to see. And, that also falls down into taking action, just like you're saying. I mean, we were talking about, Forest Mommy before the show too, a person that we both
love her to death.
And, no, Jess has my world of respect for doing what she did. It was a very, it was an interesting turnout at the end. I feel in a lot of ways she got shafted and had a smear campaign ran on her. But dude, she stayed in it. Like she saw it through. Yeah.
I mean, with that energy though, like props to her for doing that and running on that libertarian platform. I'm half tempted to do the same thing one day. Maybe, I don't know. This is anyone's game right now, and like trying to make a political platform digestible to people who understand where we're coming from is very difficult. Someone, if I would like to gather these people who are disenfranchised by the system and try to say, hey, like, I'm not bought and paid for, I'll never be bought and paid for, like, well, to be fair, like if you give me like a McLaren F1 and like, a couple $1 million, give me a few mansions, maybe. I'm just kidding. However, I think that running on a platform of limiting government and returning the power to the people to make decisions is the most prevalent thing. I've always said if I were to ever run, what I would run on is like completely, well, abolishing taxes, quote unquote, with an asterisk, because like I want people to actually put their tax money to what they would like to have it being paid for. So rather than just signing away your taxes, and I think all taxes are, the IRS should be abolished. I fully agree with that. However, if we are in a society and we do these things, you know, I would like to see then at least the people have a voice to say where their money goes. I want to
Oh,
know, like,
absolutely. 100%.
if you want to pay for roads, schools, infrastructure, so be it. If you want to pay for, abortions or, all these other things that might not align with everyone's view, you have a right to choose where that money goes. And I think that's a very returning the power to the people decision using the system. It's just an example, like using the system to say, hey, like, no, we all can't agree on everything, but we at least we have a choice in where that matter takes us, right? And this is just like, pipeline dream. I don't know. I'm just like, I sleep on it, I think about it, whatever, but this is just kind of how I see it. Like, I don't know. It's just I want the best for everyone, and trying to use a system to make a better system is great. Limiting the government. I mean, Trump was talking about taking down the Department of Education. I don't know about you, but I'm fully in support of dismantling and completely dissolving the Department of Education.
I am
Like,
also. I am also.
so
Yes.
so think of him as you will, but like there are some structural fundamental things, no taxes on tips, no income tax. Hopefully some things come to fruition. But like I said in the beginning of this podcast, it's just like he might be a means to an end. I'm not saying he's not. It's just give me 4 more years. I don't know. Like shit.
Well, dude, you're taking an objective approach. You're taking an objective approach, and I give you I give you a lot of respect for that because, like we were kind of chatting about a little bit before the show, a lot of people are getting very caught up in having attachments to a lot of these key emotional factors. Both guilty on the right and the left, and they're giving way to the mob mentality and the group think when it comes to a lot of things that are going on around them. But no, you're taking an objective approach, and that's what we need. Okay, like
Yep.
that's the kind of mentality that we need. We don't need somebody who's going to get caught up in the crossfire. One of the biggest things. I mean, even though I don't like Einstein anymore, but he did make a valid point with this statement. We cannot solve a problem with the same mentality that created the problem. We have to shift our gears into a solution based mindset. And just off the cuff, this is an off the cuff thing because I think you'll get a kick out of what I'm about to say too. What could we potentially do to, kind of talk to the anarchist community and the libertarian community and kind of try to get them to see, or is there absolutely nothing at this point? At this point, so
That is an interesting postulation because I I get where they're coming from, and I see what they see. And to be fair, like I've been a part of that community for a very long time, and I have lots of friends who are anarchists, who are libertarians, who just think that nothing works. It's tough because without getting it's I'm probably gonna get flack for this, but this is just like how my brain is breaking this down. Unless you get someone who can financially establish a campaign to run against the system, like unless you have someone who has a blank check to help you push your way, push these ideas of dismantling government, to the T of the degree in which libertarians believe, like, and I've said this before. Um, you have, in my perfect in my perfect utopian view, right? At the federal level, you have anarchy, which is no government. The government, the federal government should only be focused on border, like the controlling of the border state of the union that is the country, and international policy and coordination with global interests. And then you have the state level, which would be, I would say, leaning more conservative, or like, right leaning, where states' rights, like very, very minimal government at a state level. And then as it comes down closer and closer to your own county, you're going to have liberalism, or a little bit more government, a little bit more control and reason. And then at the city level, you're going to have, it's a bad word, I know, communism at a city level. However, if you break it down to how it should be functioning, like those are the rules and those are the laws and legislations that impact you the most. So when you consolidate these governmental systems down, you have the most impact at your city level. Then you bring it to the county, then you bring it to the state, then you bring it to the government. So therefore, you have the most voice at the smallest level. And if the word communism doesn't sound right, then call it call it community, or call it, you're involved in your direct community, so you can go to your city hall and you can make changes that immediately impact the way you live. And then you can have little enclaves in Portland that want to eat cats and dogs, or whatever the case may be. And then you have other enclaves that like walk around with AR-15s and drive around in Panzers. Like this is how we should actually govern, is the more direct our community and the more direct our government is impacting in our literal like region per mile distance radius from where you live, is more impactful to the way you live. And that's kind of how I see it. So like, until we can get a big picture, someone who can upend a federal system, because right now that whole system I just explained is inverted. Everyone feels like the federal government is the end all be all. Actually, it should be the entire way around, where the most government should be at local levels, so your cities and your counties. But it's not like that anymore, because everyone thinks shit rains down from uphill, right? It kind of does, but we want to flip that around.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Well, dude, I mean, I'm really enjoying our conversation, man. We're coming up to the hour and a half mark. I wanted to bring up something real quick, kind of a little bit of a comedy. We were talking about before the show. We were looking at the 4B movement. We talked about we talked about how the left now wants to fluoridate themselves because they don't trust Trump removing the fluoride out of the water. By the way, real quick, if any of you do not believe fluoride is bad, just go to the website fluorideactionnetwork.org. Okay, and this website has been around for, I think, about 30 plus years at this point. This is not a Donald Trump thing. People in our community
have RFK thing, even like RFK is a big proponent. Like it's a very well-known thing that like this stuff should not be in our water supply.
It's classified. What did they just recently classify it as a neurotoxin?
Yeah,
guys. So like, and I'm just gonna go on a limb and say I foresee a lot of accidental deaths happening.
They do. Well, they gave Trump all the shit because he was talking about injecting bleach, which was totally a fabrication. But now you have a whole nother group of people thinking that they're going to self-fluoridate their water. Like, are you kidding? I mean, the Nazis fluoridated their water, but
I see a lot of accidental deaths happening, most certainly, from doing this.
We're not doctors, we're not anyone, but at the same time, like, this is something that you should not do on your own.
So let's talk about 4B real quick, because both you and I have a little article here. Let's pull it up real fast.
Sure, yeah.
And we joked how it's almost like they're doing what if you're looking at the leftist mindset, they're doing everything against what they believe in. They're actually like developing these values now. So, we have, what is the 4B movement, and why are women talking about it in the wake of Trump's election win? We'll get into a brief little thing. So it actually originated in South Korea, the 4B movement, and it has seen a spike in interest amid the results of the 2024 presidential election. Some Americans, however, after Trump declared victory over Democratic nominee Harris, some Americans couldn't help but say they felt reaffirmed in their belief that most of the United States would rather anyone else as a president than a woman. Potentially, perhaps that's why interest in South Korea's 4B movement, a movement against patriarchy, has spiked in the U.S. just hours after Trump's win. So, Corey, let's dive into it a little bit, because this article. So for people who haven't heard of what this is, why don't you enlighten them just a little bit on what is going on with this 4B movement?
So the 4B movement is the B stand for Korean words I'm not privy to, but basically it translates to no dating, no sex, no marriage, and no childbearing. So the 4Bs are basically, in a sense, abstinence. And I think that's quite comical on the surface level of what it means to be a strong, independent woman. You are gathering your own ideological perspective based on a presidential victory to then fundamentally influence what a majority of right-leaning conservatives believe to be a value in their life, right? Like, a lot of conservatives would say, "Oh, that's good that you're abstaining from, promiscuous sex, and you're abstaining from abortions, and you're waiting for sex to marry." And these women are, they're, I'm sure if you look it up on, I don't have a TikTok, but I've seen the TikToks on other channels, but like, you can like see that, there's let's put it this gently, a wide spectrum of women who believe that this is an empowering move for them. They've got the bull rings in their nose and the purple and green hair, whatever have you. But to each their own. I would say that they don't even need to adhere to the 4B movement to abstain from sex, because some of them they're already checking those boxes off on their own.
Real quick, Skater Rubber Grip said they inadvertently red pilled.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. So, and it's more power to them. And this goes back to the power of self and the power of identity. Like, if they want to live those lives, dude, no one's going to hold that back from you. If that's the way you want to live, by all means, live it. I just think it's funny that they're forcing those values based on a presidential win, and rather than going off of life values and core beliefs in how they should live in general. I just think that's funny.
Me too, man. And another thing I'm gonna add to that too is, like, it just shows in my eyes a lack of sovereignty, in this group of people. And I made a post about this on X the other day. I said it doesn't matter who's sitting in the Oval Office. You should not let that outcome rule, dictate, and control your life.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we're seeing here go on.
That's exactly what they're doing.
I mean, regardless, man, I'm going to continue my mission here, regardless of who's sitting and who's sitting in that office. And and I mean, to me, it just seems like I'm going to throw this in there for my spiritual viewers. They just want to come back to samsara. It just seems like they're okay with being here on this wheel for for time memoriam or whatever it is. So,
and what? Maybe them following the 4B movement will open up pathways and mental clarity and focus in their own lives, rather than chasing the ego and the dopamine rush that is the dating and the dating sites and the constant partying scene, or however modern dating is. Because I've I've basically just like, I'm focusing on myself. It's not that I don't date. It's just the fact that I'm not participating because I'm just like, I've got so much other shit on my plate. I'm gardening. I'm trying to start a business. I make hot
Oh
sauce.
yeah, dude.
I'm an artist. I do all these other things. And just if someone rolls along my way, the cards are on the table, right? I'm not negative. I'm not opposed to it. It's just not in my wheelhouse currently.
Oh,
But
of course.
if these women in the 4B moon are actively making that decision, maybe they can find time to introvertly introspect on themselves and say, hey, you know what? I've actually gained a lot of truth in my own life, and I've gained a lot of perspective that I find true in my own values, and hopefully it helps them. If that's really going to inherently push themselves forward into that movement, by all means, go for it. No one's going to hold you otherwise, because that's one of my libertarian beliefs. Everyone has their right to live whatever life they want to live, right?
Oh,
But
100%.
and I just think it's comical in the response, right? And there's some of them are even like shaving their heads, and like you've seen the liberal outrage online. I'm sure it's just like it's wild. But I wish them all the best, and I don't mean any ill harm, but maybe some good will come out of this movement in the long term.
You know what's funny, man, is that's why I've taken, at least in my life, I've taken a step outside of the dualistic box, because one thing I've seen in my experience here is a lot of what could be perceived as bad things sometimes have silver linings,
Yep.
and that could be a really good example of that right there. By the way, I want to talk to you because you were talking about hot sauce. We'll chat a little bit off air about this, but I want to bring it up here because I make my own pickled vegetables and things like that. I make my own cheese and I make my own wine.
Great.
So
Yeah.
So we're gonna chat a little bit after the show.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe put our heads together. But other than that, man, we're gonna wind down for tonight, dude. I gotta say, I really enjoyed our conversation. It's good to see people who are taking an objective approach. Those are the kind of people I like to keep in my circle. For the main reason, you're keeping your sovereignty during all of this, and you made a choice that you thought was right. And like whether somebody agrees with that or not, who can judge you for that?
Sure.
And that's really the bottom line, man. Is we have to start gaining an understanding that the power is in our hands, and it truly is. It just takes the understanding and the realization of that and putting your foot forward.
Yep. And I appreciate you having me here. If anyone in the chat or watching the stream wants to follow me, it's Break the Chains Media on YouTube, on Rumble. I'm much more active on Rumble and Instagram, Break the Chains Media, or on X at Break the Chains M. And I will say that I did vote for Trump, and I do agree in a lot of what he says. I also think that he's a narcissistic egotist, and he kind of wants he does have a little power trip on his hands. But I will still call him out, and I will hold everyone accountable, just like I called out Bush and Cheney, just like I called out Obama, drone strikes. I've called out Biden. I've called out every single politician in my adult years, and I will hold this administration just as accountable in if they wanted to kill innocent civilians overseas, or if they want to start foreign wars, or if they're money laundering, or however the case may be. Everything's still on the table. I just hope for the best, plan for the worst. And my credo, I have it tattooed on my arm. You probably can't see it because it's upside down. I do have the V for Vendetta there, but it says fight for freedom. And I think that's one of my biggest things, is just fight for freedom. Everyone has the right to live free and hold their truths paramount. And the governing power is in ourselves.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you what, man. You're speaking in volumes here, because this is I know a lot of people even in the spiritual community that voted, and they still will hold this administration a accountable. And other than that, man, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I did include all of Corey's links, guys. I did not include his YouTube, but yeah, it's Break the Chains Media, one word. He's mostly on Rumble, but I do have his main website. I have his X, and I have his Instagram. So guys, give him a follow. Again, dude, great conversation. If you got a second, hang out for like 5 minutes after we get off air.
Absolutely.
I will be back next week with a very special guest, Andre. Him and I have been chatting for a little bit now. And I've been listening to some of his podcasts, and we are going to be having a pretty spiritual show next week, guys. So gear up for that. I know we've been doing a lot of the politics lately, but I think it is important to look at. I think it is important to talk about, because ultimately, just as Corey is saying here, like, it's time for us young bucks to get in, and it's time for us to start kind of making some waves, because we have a fresh perspective and we have a fresh mentality that I think that can really contribute to a lot of what's going on right now. A lot of us don't really see the world in black and white like a lot of these older politicians do. We kind of see it in a different perspective, and I think that's something valuable that our country needs at this time. But other than that, guys, you all have a great night. Thanks again for joining me for another BG Cast Wednesday live podcast. I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.